I just want to make that clear. General, I want to ask you, President Zelensky has finally moved away from Ukraine joining NATO. Today, he said, and I'll just read it. He said, for years, we've been hearing about how the door is supposedly open to NATO membership, but now we hear that we cannot enter, and it is true, and it must be acknowledged. Obviously, this was maybe the bare minimum of what Putin would have accepted before this, if even anything. Does it move the needle now?
It's too little, too late. Putin has sent his troops in. He's lost troops in battle. That's not going to be enough for him to end this campaign. He still wants to overturn the government. He wants to neutralize his country, make it a neutral country. So this notion of these small tokens given by Zelensky, unfortunately, only show Putin that Zelensky is starting to capitulate, which tells me that Putin's going to ramp this up even more.
So, Evelyn, the no-fly zone comes up again and again. You know, we just heard it from Maxime, right, from Mariupol. And when I was talking to the mayor of Kharkiv earlier today, I mean, when you say, what do you want the world to know? They want the world to know about their fortitude and their passion to fight. And they want the world to know that they want a no-fly zone. And they keep, you know, we hear this from Zelensky, but we hear it from all of them. I understand that would not stop artillery and the shelling that is occurring, right? That this mass death and civilian casualties. But do you think at this point that a no-fly zone would accomplish anything significant?
Look, I think, Aaron, that you have to try everything you can, first of all, to protect the civilians from this artillery, from the bombing, from all of the air attacks that they are succumbing to and that they're suffering from, because these are innocent civilians and it's against the laws of war. So I believe our administration should look at all options, keep them all on the table and assess them according to the risk, the cost to us, the cost to all parties involved. I think there is a place for a humanitarian no-fly zone because there has to be a way to resupply places like Mariupol. And if you're going to resupply or you're going to take people out, there has to be an agreement that the Russians won't shoot at them. Or if there's no agreement, we have to try to protect them. And again, these things are both risky because if you have an agreement, you can't trust the Russians. And if you have no agreement, you're taking a risk that the Russians will be too afraid to shoot at you, right? But at the end of the day, we can't just sit there and let these people die. Now, one quick thing about Zelensky's comment, I think he's showing that he's open to negotiation. He can't go much farther than what he said today, but he may be signaling to the West and to the Russians that you can sit down and deal with me. So that's just an aside. But we have to do more to protect the civilians. And I hope the administration's coming up with all kinds of options. All kinds of options.
All right. Thank you both so very much. And again, I mean, you just got to keep in mind there's hundreds of thousands of people in Mariupol. And by our count, I'm talking to people who, you know, have family there, doctors who are working there. It's been a week to 10 days since people have been able to have contact with a lot of individuals who desperately need medical care or diabetes medication. I mean, it is fair to use the word catastrophic. Thank you both so very much. I appreciate both of you. And next, the Russian journalist who burst onto the set of that state-run television network appears in public today. So what made Putin decide not to put her in prison? Plus, CNN with incredible access tonight. This is an incredible thing. Russian soldiers speaking to CNN. What they're saying tonight about the deadly invasion that, of course, they have been part of. They've been carrying out. They're speaking to us. And we travel to one Ukrainian town where everyone from electricians to grandmothers are coming together to protect their country. Breaking her silence, the Russian journalist arrested for this anti-war protest that aired live on Russian state television spoke out today on what she endured before being released.
Those were indeed very difficult days of my life. I literally spent 2 days with no sleep. The questioning lasted over 14 hours. I wasn't allowed to contact my relatives or friends. I wasn't provided with any legal assistance. So I am in quite a difficult position.
Marina Ovsyannikova, a mother of 2 children, was spared prison time and instead was fined 30,000 rubles, which is $273. Now, that fine was actually specifically for the message that she recorded before the televised protest, where she urged others to follow her lead. So that fine was for this.
We are Russian people, thinking and smart, and it is only in our power to stop all this madness. go to the rallies and do not be afraid. They cannot arrest us all.
Out front now, Ekaterina Khodorkadze, news director and anchor at TV Rain, an independent Russian outlet that was shut down by the government when they passed that new law saying you could go to prison for 15 years for saying that this was a war. TV Rain played Swan Lake as it went off the air to signal to viewers that something was wrong, because that's what Russian state TV had done during a failed coup attempt on Gorbachev. Katerina, I'm so glad to have you back. So let me just, because you understand what's happening here. Marina, this television producer, right, who walked out with that sign, and before that she had recorded the video. That's what the fine is for. We don't know what the punishment may be for the sign part of this. It's apparently separate. But she goes through 14 hours straight of questioning at this point. During that time, she says no contact with families, with friends, or lawyers. But then she comes out again for the video portion that she recorded with this $273 fine and no prison time. What do you make of that?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you so much, Erin. It's good to be here. I'm not sure that this is the end of the story of Marina Ovsyannikova, because I think that this is just the first step, because I can see that the representatives of Russian government are demanding for some revenge on this person, because she is representing not just a media outlet. She represents the first channel of Russian television, and she was on air during the most popular, I would say, news program on Russian television. Millions of viewers all around Russia, 140 million people living here, and a lot of, a big part of these people were watching this newscast. So I think she did something really wrong for Russian authorities, who claim that there's no war in Ukraine, that there's a special military operation. Right. And well, we will see the next steps, but I think that it's not the end for her, unfortunately. But she's adorable. I think this is one of the bravest persons that we can see in Russia nowadays. It's unfortunate that I'm not in Russia. She is, and she is doing what she's doing. This is amazing.
So that's exactly how it seemed, right? Just her boldness and her bravery, and she has 2 young children. And then, Katerina, of course, today there were suggestions on social media that she's not a genuine dissenter of Putin's war, that the whole protest may have been planned because she wasn't given any prison time. And in fact, some of that, conspiracy came from, some Ukrainian sources. Okay, so I know you saw all of this. What's your perspective? Do you see that as possible?
No, I think she is the real person, definitely, and she's who she is. And I don't believe these rumors about the staged, fake protest. This is not truth. The truth is that there was a person working inside of this propaganda machine who decided to say something, because her father is Ukrainian, her mother is Russian, and she wanted to declare that it's not right, that the war was going on, and it's going on, and people are dying in Ukraine, and Russia is dying, actually, together with Ukraine. It's not only about Ukraine, it's about both countries. So I think that, war is going on. For a lot of Ukrainians, it's not easy. It's not easy to separate the truth from false. It's not easy to judge the situation. It's understandable, but it's also very important to understand that there are a lot of brave people in Russia who don't believe, that they need to spread lies, who are fed up with the situation. And I really think that it's important to respect this kind of people. And there are a lot of Russians who support her and who support free media, democracy, and Ukraine. It's really important to understand that.
Yes. Well, Katerina, I appreciate talking to you again. I know it's late, and I thank
you. Thank you.
All right. We'll speak soon. And next, Russian soldiers crying, calling the invasion horrifying and a crime. Tonight, we have incredible access to prisoners of war, and you are going to want to hear more about what they are saying to us about Putin's war. Plus a warning tonight that people are trying to enter Ukraine from Syria to fight for Putin.
I'm Nick Payton-Walsh in Mykolaiv, Ukraine, and this is CNN.
Russian soldiers crying as they recount phone calls with their families, describing Putin's invasion and the shelling of cities as, quote, crimes committed against the Ukrainian people, suggesting they were deceived about Russia's military operation, and saying Putin is trying to deceive the world with his purported reason for invading. All of it coming from 3 Russian prisoners of war who spoke to our Sebastian Shukla in a remarkable 30-minute conversation. One of them indicating that Russian troops are widely opposed to the war, telling Seb, quote, I know in my unit, they are totally against it. Sebastian Shukla is out front, and he has been covering the war in Ukraine since the lead up to the invasion. And of course, for so many years, I know you have spent an incredible amount of time in the country, in the Donbass. So Seb, you had this remarkable opportunity now to meet with, to speak with these captured soldiers up close. They were upset by the civilian casualties. One soldier telling you, and I just want to read this quote of what they said to you, it was a horrifying fact, not just because it is a crime. It's vandalism. You cannot forgive such things. To bomb a maternity ward? The soldier, of course, Seb, was referring to that Mariupol maternity ward bombing in which multiple people were killed, including a woman and her unborn child. Seb, tell me more about that conversation.
Well, Erin, I was able to speak to them one-to-one after a press conference on Friday in Kiev, and I can say honestly that they sounded remorseful to me. They sounded regretful for what had happened. But I want to start by saying initially that what the Ukrainians are doing here is incredibly controversial. They are violating one of the international laws, which is on human rights. It's the Geneva Convention, which talks about not making prisoners of war items of public debate. And that is clearly what is happening here, not just from the 3 that I spoke to, but all of the others who've been paraded on Ukrainian television too. I want to read you some of the quotes that they told us. And it says, you know, we don't see any Nazis or fascists. I think it was invented as a pretext. It's something the world cannot understand. But Putin and his circle need this in order to achieve their own objectives. But now cities of peaceful civilians are being destroyed. Even I don't know what can justify the tears of a child, or even worse, the deaths of innocent people and children. And, you know, I think it's abundantly clear just from that one quote that this is not a war that their hearts are invested in. And it seems very, very clear that this is President Putin's war, not theirs.
I mean, it is pretty stunning, right? I mean, you just think about the entire structure of, you know, the largest militaries on this planet, right? It all relies on soldiers doing what they're told. And I know one of the POWs talked to you about their Ukrainian captors. And as you point out, even talking to them, I understand, is controversial. That's why we're not showing their faces. And you're putting quotes and choosing not to show the video. Mm-hmm. But they told you this treatment has been acceptable. They've offered us food and drink. They offered medical treatment. Did the soldiers, Seb, give you any impression that they were speaking under duress?
I didn't get that feeling. I mean, look, let's be honest. There were Ukrainian security intelligence officials and officers in the room. They were wearing balaclavas. They had AK-47s. They were loaded. But there was nothing to suggest that what they were saying was scripted in any way. I found what they had to say to be genuinely very compelling. Lots of what was said came from who would be the ranking officer in the room. And, you know, they spoke candidly about wanting to be able to go home and wanting to go and see their families, but also about the uncertainty about what is going to happen to them. You know, and one of the things that they said to us, you know, is, you know, our fate is in the hands of the armed forces of Ukraine. Of course, we want to see our families and loved ones and to meet them and hug them because they're worried. And the crimes that we committed, we will all be judged the same. And Erin, on the topic of being judged for crimes, that was one very disturbing piece of information that he told us, was that the bombs that the Russians are dropping across Ukraine are not guided. They're not ballistic. They are not precision guided in any way. They are World War II bombs that have been updated and upgraded, and they are dropped indiscriminately so that when they land, the damage is extensive. And I think it's very, very clear that the world is judging them now, and that President Putin and that this war that he's calling a special operation is going to reflect on them very, very badly.
Yeah, Seb, thank you very much. Well, certainly the soldiers, the 150,000 plus soldiers that he already has on the ground, they're all seeing it. as they're doing it. That's a lot of Russian eyes. Thank you so much to Seb Shukla, that incredible opportunity to talk to those POWs, and you heard how he felt that they were genuine in what they said, despite the controversial nature of the conversations. Andrei Soldatov joins me now. He's a Russian investigative journalist and the editor of Agentura.ru, which is a watchdog of the Russian Secret Service's activities. And he's also a senior fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis. Andrei, thank you very much for being with me. And I have been reading your work and following, and I'm so glad to have you on tonight. So when you hear our Sebastian Shukla, he's in the room, he talked to those POWs. Yes, there are Ukrainians in the room. Yes, it's controversial. So we've made all that very clear. But from his conversations, he said they were clearly upset by the civilian casualties. One of them telling him, quote, "You cannot forgive such things." Another saying, "What can justify the tears of a child, or even worse, the deaths of innocent people and children?" So, Andrei, how do you think Putin views these words, these POWs who are speaking, and no doubt many others who are not speaking, who are also seeing these atrocities that they're committing?
Well, it looks like Vladimir Putin still has a picture of what is going on in Ukraine, and this picture is very far from reality. And we already have some indications that actually, even the intelligence, he was briefed about the situation in Ukraine before the invasion, and now is very far from what is really going on in Ukraine. He's getting upset with that, and we got some news about at least two top-level FSB generals being interrogated and placed under house arrest. But it looks like he still has these strong opinions about what is going on in Ukraine, and he sticks to his opinions.
So, Andrei, of course, I know you've done so much reporting on this. We obviously haven't confirmed that about the FSB agents, but I want to ask you about that. With what we're seeing in terms of the military performance there, what are you hearing right now about how Putin views his top intelligence agents and other top officials in his, such that it is inner circle?
Well, it looks like he's getting that the intelligence he was given by the FSB was not absolutely accurate. But it's not only about intelligence. This department of the FSB, which was hit by this arrest, is also responsible for conducting political warfare operations, mostly cultivating agents on the ground and cultivating political opposition to Zelensky. And the idea was to have some people on the ground ready for the Russian troops and to help them to get into Ukraine. That never happened. And it looks like now Putin is getting upset. But the problem is that you cannot solve your problem with bad intelligence by arresting people. They are getting more afraid of you, that's it, and they will try to guess what you have in your mind. And again, the problem is that Putin has really strong opinions about Ukraine.
Yes. All right, Andrei, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And next, we're going to take you back live to Ukraine, where the resistance to Putin's forces, which we saw, even before the war started, was clear it would be there. It is now still as strong as ever. And China fighting back against the United States' warning to stop helping Russia.
All new CNN original series, Nomad with Carlton McCoy, coming this spring to CNN.
Tonight, the Pentagon warning that people are trying to enter Ukraine from Syria to fight for Russia, as Putin had basically called for. It comes as Ukrainians across the country are bracing for a fierce ground war with Russian troops, with everyone from farmers to grandmothers doing what they can to protect their homeland. Ivan Watson is out front in Vinnytsia, Ukraine. And Ivan, you have met some of these individuals, no matter their age or stage in life, willing to do whatever it takes. What did they tell you?
Yeah, I think the ground war has not come to the city yet, but everybody here knows somebody who's either fighting the Russian army or who's been made homeless by them or been hurt or killed by them at this point. And everybody here is talking about the war and getting ready for the possible worst-case scenario that the ground war comes to their doorsteps.
Dawn breaks over the city of Vinnytsia with an air raid siren. The ground war has yet to reach this city in central Ukraine, but locals aren't taking any chances. This is the entrance to a village on the outskirts of the city, a checkpoint protected by volunteers, an ex-cop, a fireman, and an electrician. Look at how this village is protecting itself. Homemade tank traps, which the locals call hedgehogs. They've sewn netting and put up sandbags. And around the wall here of this checkpoint, they've got boxes of Molotov cocktails ready. This is all locally made. These are improvised defenses. And this is just one Ukrainian village. Just down the road, I meet Nina Chitalyuk, who seems like a sweet 71-year-old grandmother. By the way, Nina says that if she saw Vladimir Putin, she would strangle him with her own hands right now. I'm ready, she says. If by God the Russians come here, I'll shoot them all and my hands won't even shake. I'll throw grenades at them. There is seething anger here at Moscow's invasion, and at the same time, examples of tremendous generosity. Stacked inside a garage, humanitarian assistance trucked in from Europe. Personal donations of clothes and food for the struggling people of Ukraine. Aid that will then be shipped off to frontline cities.
I want to say thank you for the rest of the world, I want to say that we need help. We need and we will need help.
Is Vinnytsia ready if the Russian military comes to this city?
Yeah. And other cities give us a time. We have 2 weeks to make good defense. Today we ready, but we don't want this.
The war effort extends to Vasily Solsky and his farm, where workers labor listening to news of the war. Vasily donates free food to self-defense forces. Vasily Dmitrovich says he's doing his part to help with the war effort. He says he's planting more crops and he's going to try to grow more food to feed effort. He says he's planting more crops and he's going to try to grow more food to feed Ukrainians who may be in need in the weeks and months ahead. One of Vladimir Putin's stated objectives for his war on Ukraine was to demilitarize the country. Instead, he has mobilized farmers, grandmothers, and electricians to form a grassroots resistance against the Russian invasion.
So the city is playing an important role, local officials say. It's a place, for example, where wounded Ukrainian soldiers can come to get treatment, to get better before going back to the front. You constantly see displaced Ukrainians coming through here, taking shelter as they then move on further west into the country. And local officials say that they play an important role. Their economy has to continue functioning because that is how they will continue being able to fund the Ukrainian military that is fighting and dying to protect this country. Erin.
Ivan, thank you very much.